I am Jeff Williams, and I am pleased to serve as the Foundation's chairman of the board. On behalf of my fellow directors, I want to extend a warm welcome to this evening's gathering. Thank you all for joining us to celebrate 2022 and to look forward a bit into 2023. Over the past years, individuals, families, and organizations came together to support positive and lasting change in our community. Importantly, we were able to do more together than we could alone. This included the $685,000 invested in local nonprofits, carefully vetted through our annual grant cycle, many of you are deeply involved in our grant cycle. We also surpassed the $750,000 threshold for grants out of our COVID-19 response fund, investing in emergency assistance and critical needs in our local community. More than 120 people volunteered with us as grant reviewers on our luncheon committee, at the appeals committee members, or other activities. We're also pleased to honor several exemplary individuals in our community as last year's luncheon with the Spirit of New Canaan Awards. Barb Achenbaum, Dee Dee and Jim Bartlett, who are here this evening, I think, and New Canaan Moms Community Collective, Monica Camara and Allison Mahoney. And I'm sure you all are aware of the ripple effect which leads to more friends and neighbors joining our efforts. Our town is quite special for two of its closely linked deep traditions, volunteering and generously giving back. We are deeply grateful. You are our friends and our advocates. Our work would simply not be possible without the tremendous family of givers, and we thank you for that. We recently kicked off our annual grant cycle, where we vet local organizations seeking funding for a wide variety of initiatives, everything from supporting the arts to underwriting special needs of seniors, to enriching educational opportunities for our younger residents and protecting the environment. More than 95 volunteers from our community will mobilize over the next 3 months to steward our grant process. And in that process, we'll vet more than 100 organizations who are seeking our collective support. That work is not possible without you. Thank you for your generous support of the Community Foundation, and through us, the organizations providing much needed services and making our community a very, very special place. Thank you to the special group of people who served on our annual appeal committee, and especially our amazing appeal co-chairs, Holly Casella and Beth Golden. Our volunteers make a huge difference in reaching out to their friends and their neighbors, sharing why it's so important to grow local giving. And thank you to all of you who gave to the annual appeal. We saw tremendous generosity at the year end, and support is still coming in. And will help us respond further to key issues in our community. We are so deeply grateful and are ready to put your dollars to good work. One of the great privileges is I get to thank my fellow board members. Our terrific board, 20 members strong, lead the foundation's work. We are so pleased to have 6 great board members join us this past year. I see Jane Benton's there, Alex Grancheroff, Suzanne Harrison, Chris Schipper, Sarah Schubert, and Ross Weiner. We also want to recognize 6 individuals who completed their board service this past year. Carolyn Corcoran, John Knight, Todd Lampert, Sharon McClymans, Joe Pryor, and Laura Walbert. Thank you all for all your service to our community. And now to provide us With an overview of the foundation's finances, I'd like to introduce Vice Chair Aaron Cooper, who is pinch hitting for Jim Clayton, our treasurer. Alas, COVID caught up with him in the last couple of days, as we all are afraid of, I guess. And I wanted to thank you once again. Thanks for coming, and thanks for being part of our efforts.
Thank you, Jeff. As Jeff mentioned, I'm here in place of Jim, and honored to give the financial report in service of the Finance Committee. As a result of the steep decline in financial markets during fiscal year 2022, the foundation closed the year, ended June 30th, with $23.6 million in funds under management, down from $27.9 million at June 30th, 2021. At the end of calendar year 2022, assets under management were $23.9 million, and based on the 1.5% rise in the S&P 500 in January, Jim estimates that we are currently in the neighborhood of $24.3 million. These funds are lodged in more than 85 charitable funds, representing 47 donor-advised funds, 11 field of interest funds, where we are the vehicle for a local charitable project, 7 scholarship funds, 14 agency funds where nonprofit organizations have chosen to invest their endowments with us, and several board-directed funds. In fiscal 2022, your generous contributions to our annual appeal and donations directed by our donor-advised funds enabled us to support 78 local and area nonprofit institutions through our annual grant cycle. As has been the case for the past several years, most of our funds are managed by 2 professional managers, Vanguard and the Investment Fund for Foundations, which is known as TIF. The Foundation's Finance Committee, chaired by Jim, and comprised of board members and local citizens who have expertise in finance and investment management, oversees the performance of these managers. Jim and I thank them for their dedicated service. As you might expect, we take care to ensure that our portfolio of investments is widely diversified among equity and fixed income funds, with a modest exposure to alternative investments through the TIF managed funds. The focus of our investment strategy is to preserve the real purchasing power of our assets while achieving positive returns over the long term, thus enabling the funding of the Foundation's work within the community. As we do in the autumn of each year, we held meetings with our investment managers this past November here in New Canaan so that representatives of our donor-advised funds and agency funds could address questions directly with our Vanguard and TIF account managers. In closing, and on behalf of Jim, I'd like to thank all of you for your generous ongoing support of the Foundation's work, and we hope that this report has helped you see that the funds are in good hands for now and for the future. So finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Lauren Patterson, the wonderful president and CEO of the New Canaan Community Foundation. Lauren.
Good evening. We are so glad to see such a great crowd tonight. The last in-person annual meeting was February of 2020, so we're really, really excited to see you here in person tonight. These last 3 years have been remarkable for a lot of reasons, but we're here tonight to celebrate your generosity, your engagement with this community, and what we can, as Jeff referenced earlier, do together that we can't do alone. The New Canaan Community Foundation was founded in 1977, so we're just over 45 years old now, and founded by civically minded residents of our community. We are intended to be the foundation for this community to do great work together. Community foundations as a field are here to balance and to do 3 things kind of woven together. One is to support individual donors who might choose to have a donor advised fund with us or otherwise want to engage with us on questions of how to give locally and how to make an impact. 2, we engage with a big and broad community who are seeking ways to give within their community and to affect a wide variety of issues. And then 3, it's to do the hard and kind of messy work of setting a common table for people to come together on a variety of issues and do work together to move the needle on those issues. There are more than 900 community foundations across the U.S., but I will say that the New Canaan Community Foundation is very special in being powered by one town. That's quite unique and should be celebrated. We are deeply grateful, as others have referenced, for the ways that you support the foundation and the partners that we serve in the community, but also for your advice and your partnership and your leadership in this effort. With that in mind, we thought it would be great to hear tonight from two great partners and leaders in our community that the foundation has the great honor of working with on a regular basis, and for them to share with you some of the work that they are leading in our community. So first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Bryan Luizzi. Probably doesn't need an introduction, but he's our superintendent of public schools in town, and he's going to describe a new partnership with the foundation we're just piloting this year. Bryan.
Good evening. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for the very thoughtful and generous invitation to be with you this evening. Those of you who have been at Rotary or other meetings that I've spoken at know that I like to talk. And Lauren very wisely gave me a tight time limit tonight for all of you. So I will stick to that, or I'll do my best to stick to that. But I like to talk because there's so much to talk about, especially with our schools and so many amazing and wonderful things happening. And tonight, I'm going to highlight one or two of the ways that the Community Foundation has helped our kids, helped our community, and truly been such a wonderful partner with us. And the Foundation's long been a partner with the public schools. And since the pandemic began till now, that partnership has gotten stronger and stronger every year. The experience of the pandemic highlighted many things for many of us, including that when times get tight, food scarcity exists everywhere, even right here in New Canaan. And the Community Foundation has helped us as a school district to care for those children, care for those families, and do very, very important work. It may surprise you to know that we have over 130 students who are in more than 90 different families in our school system who qualify for free and reduced lunch based upon their income. And that is a very low threshold, meaning the income is very low. Over the past few years, and it was really highlighted by the pandemic as we went through that experience together, we've really been focusing on taking steps to help these children, to help these families. And the Community Foundation has been an enormous partner, a very strong partner in all of that. For instance, one of the programs that we've started is a breakfast club program over at our middle school for our 5th graders. And no, it's not a Saturday detention program. That's not what we're talking about. It literally is a breakfast club. All right, so they meet and they have breakfast in the morning. And the students is very informal, and it makes sure that those kids and any child who's hungry coming into school is cared for as they go into their day and have their experience there. We can all remember being in school and the challenges and pressures that come with sitting at a lunch table. Before the assistance of the Community Foundation, our students receiving free or reduced lunch in our schools really had a very limited menu of what choices they had and what options they could have. And they were very self-conscious about that, as they sat with their friends and others. Thanks to the help of the foundation and this pilot program, those students now can get the same thing that their friends are getting. They can sit at the table with everyone else. They can get the cookie and sit there and enjoy that cookie with all of their friends as they're doing the same. And it may seem like a small thing, but it's not. It's an enormously significant thing for children as they are learning to become the people who they will be. And it just shows them that we value everyone equally in our schools. The foundation, I'm going to go off a little bit. The foundation's also been a great partner in our community efforts in educating the community and our schools. For instance, we had a doctor, Dr. Stuart Ablong, come down from Harvard this year, back in November, and he did a wonderful job sharing his research with us about students, and really students that struggle, students that may be misbehaving. It's really a question of skill, not will. It's not that they're not motivated to do well, it's that they don't have the skills to do well. And that, what might seem like a subtle paradigm shift, truly is informing our work this year and into the future as we think about how do we continue to program best for students who need us most. And it's thanks to the foundation and our partnership and the strength of the work that we do together that we were able to bring Stuart down, have this experience, and continue doing the work going forward. So in big and small ways, the Community Foundation is a truly essential partner for us in our schools and helps us to do these things for kids either en masse, I mean, also, with Stuart Ablon, or those individual students who have specific needs that we can meet in a variety of ways. So as superintendent, I'm deeply grateful for the relationship, for the partnership, and for the work that we do. And it's a privilege to be here with all of you who make that happen. And I look forward to the great things we're going to keep doing on behalf of children. So thank you for the invitation. That's the shortest I've ever spoken to a group, ever. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Luizzi, and I think kudos to your tremendous staff team. The partnerships that he's described have really been things that the school staff have reached out to the foundation and said, hey, is this possible? We're thinking about this. Can you help us think this through? And it's with all of your support that we're able to be responsive and play that role, so thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Andrew Gerber. He's the president and medical director of Silver Hill Hospital. And as some of you may know, the Community Foundation's been doing specific work on behavioral health issues over the last 4 or 5 years. And Silver Hill Hospital has been a tremendous partner in this work. We've been working on a variety of kind of system-wide issues, and I would like to introduce Dr. Gerber to describe that work.
Thanks so much, Lauren, and thanks so much for having me here tonight. So I'm noticing a pattern already because I too like to talk, and I too was given a very short time, which I was also going to say was wise. But it's really a pleasure to be able to see so many friends and to talk with you about the collaboration that we've started here. I would be remiss though in not starting with the following. So over the 4 years I've been in town and been at the helm at Silver Hill, people sometimes ask me, do you have a connection to New Canaan? Did you have a connection before you came here? And what I often say to people is, well, I have one, which is I got married in New Canaan. But this is, and I've said that many times, but this is the first time I can tell you I got married in New Canaan here. I got married in this room. Literally, like there. So it's almost 20 years. So it's very exciting to be back here. But I was thinking about how do I put succinctly what we're up against, and I think you've all heard and read about the mental health crisis we're in at the moment, and I thought I would boil it down to two things that we as professionals are seeing, and that I imagine most of you are seeing as well. The first is that the level of challenge, the complexity in the stresses that our children, our adolescents, and we ourselves as adults are exposed to are unprecedented. And it comes from every angle. It comes from the angle of social media, which I think we're all too aware of. It comes from the world and our culture as a whole and the things it bombards us with, particularly the youngest members of our society. It comes from the substances, the drugs that our young people are exposed to. We've always had elements of all those things, but no one has ever seen a period of time where they're as complex and difficult. That was true before COVID, and it was amplified by the pandemic. And there is not a family I know that isn't affected in some way by the scourges of depression, anxiety, addiction, and other very major issues that we are all facing. So that's one huge challenge, but there's a second. We live in a culture that right now has moved as far as it can towards the quick fix, towards trying to address things with simpler and shorter ways of addressing. And one of the things I think we learn as we grow up is that hard problems have hard solutions. If there had been a quick fix for these things, we would have found it by now. But rather, we need expertise, we need community, we need institutions that we trust in an era where there is more and more distrust of these very things that we need most. And that, to me, adds a whole nother element to the challenge that I was just talking about. But here's the solution as suggested even in the problems themselves. If we returned to these institutions, we return to the communities that have strengthened us over the years, we have the best chance of fighting off these terrible problems. And I believe that the town of New Canaan and the New Canaan Community Fund are exactly the kinds of institutions we need. I also believe that Silver Hill Hospital was founded in New Canaan in 1931 for exactly this reason. As you may know from the history books, it was much more common in that era to build psychiatric hospitals or asylums far outside of towns, not in residential areas, not in small towns. They were things that many people believed were to be ashamed of and to be avoided. But the founders of Silver Hill, and interestingly were related to a group that had founded the Austin Riggs Center, where I previously worked up in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, believed differently. They believed that by embedding the treatment within a community, you not only helped the individuals, the patients who were at the hospital, but their families and the community itself. Because now the community was coming together to recognize and talk about these terrible issues and face them as a group and find meaning in them, yet as difficult as they were, as opposed to banishing them too far away. There have been many years where that's not been the case. There have been years where Silver Hill, I've been told by locals, was a place to be feared or a place to drive quickly by. And I believe, and I hope, that we are changing that. But I want to go back to something that happened that was extremely meaningful to me when I first arrived. When I first came to New Canaan, really within that first year, I get a call from Lauren Patterson, who I hadn't met yet, that she was convening a group of individuals, mostly from New Canaan, but from neighboring communities as well, to talk about mental health. And I thought, this is amazing. How fortunate is it that I now get to meet these very people? And I thought maybe there'd be a couple sessions, I'd meet a few people, and that would be it. But what I learned was that there was a passion that came from Lauren and the Community Foundation, but also came from all the other agencies, people who are here tonight, Paul and others, who said, we need to talk about these things. We need to come together and to figure these things out. And they welcomed me and they welcomed Silver Hill to the table. So flash forward a few years, and as we're emerging from the darkest days of COVID, I get another call, and this one's from Kevin Moynihan, our first selectman. And he said, you know, we have some funds that have been allocated by the federal government to help this town. And there's a lot of requests for it. But I wonder if there's something we can do for this community in terms of mental health and addictions. And Kevin had a passion, and his team had a belief that we could put our heads together and find a way to help people. So out of that and several sessions where we talked, the New Canaan Urgent Assessment Program was born. And the New Canaan Urgent Assessment Program is a program that allows any resident of New Canaan to come and get a high-quality, expertly done psychiatric or psychological assessment within 48 hours, no questions asked, no money down. And that's unprecedented. That doesn't happen in other communities. And it doesn't happen because people don't want to talk about it or people don't want to give the money for it, but you did. And it was an honor for me to then sit at the table and to brainstorm with the group and figure out how to do that. So in July, we launched. To date, we've seen about 70 individuals, 70 individuals from every age group, from all walks of life, from across the town of New Canaan, who come and say, I need help. I need to talk to somebody, and I want to talk to an expert. When we do that, we do it obviously confidentially and privately, and we help that person find where they want to go. Too many people have said to me over the years, well, I wanted help, but the next appointment was 6 weeks away. Or I wanted help, and I looked at my copay, and I hadn't paid my deductible, and it was X dollars. Now, you might say those are excuses. Maybe yes, maybe no, but it doesn't matter. What matters is when people are in need, that they can get that help. The second thing people said to me is, well, I got an assessment, but then I didn't know what to do with it. They gave me a little piece of paper that had somebody's phone number on it. I called it. They were full. They never called me back. And we made the pledge that every single patient who comes to the New Canaan Urgent Assessment Program was not only going to get a comprehensive assessment, but we were going to make sure they got what we call a warm handoff. That is, we would make sure that they had not just an appointment, but a follow-through with the clinician that they wanted to see. And we check in with them. We spend hours with these individuals, hours on the phone. We use the expertise of Silver Hill Hospital, which is here for thousands of patients a year. We know how to do this. We're well connected in the town, and we're doing it for the people of New Canaan who need us. So that's enormously gratifying for us. We're coming up on a year. We'll be a year in July, but we want to do this indefinitely. And that's where not just Kevin, but Lauren and the Community Foundation have been amazing partners in helping us think about how we're going to fund succeeding years. Silver Hill is a nonprofit, of course, will be part of that, and we contribute to it. We are looking for partners in neighboring towns because we believe that as wonderful as New Canaan is, but we'd like to see it to be a regional network of towns. But ultimately, our goal is to help as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, with great expertise. And that, to me, is what's going to answer these terrible difficulties, bringing our community together, bringing our resources together, and talking about these tough issues. So I'm very grateful to the Community Fund and to all of you for everything you've done, and I look forward to collaborating with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gerber. We're so optimistic about this program, and just want to thank you, both of our speakers. It is a real gift to our community that you both serve with such passion in service of our residents, so thank you. On a closing note, I should mention that the speaker at our upcoming luncheon on May 3rd, Andy Dunn, the founder of the menswear company Bonobos, is also an author of the book called Burn Rate, which is about his entrepreneurial journey as well as facing a mental health diagnosis during that process. And so we're really excited that he'll be kind of further opening up that conversation in our community come May 3rd. To wrap this evening, I must thank our staff team, Meg Soffin and Lauren Erickson especially. Our small and mighty staff team puts a tremendous amount of time and energy into making this community a better place. So thank you for doing that day in and day out. And thank you all again for being here tonight and for being our partners year round. And we look forward to seeing more of you this year. So I hope you continue enjoying some drinks and food, and we'll see you soon. Good night.